Earth friends. Gemini Brett here with a public service announcement. All visible planets are now visible. It's not like this all of the time. Typically we have at least one of the travelers under the beams of the sun. Mercury spends more time invisible than visible because Mercury, who of course is the planet that is closest to the sun from Earth's point of view, just stays nearby, right? So Mercury's kind of consistently going under the beams of the sun and then popping back out. But Mercury is now quite visible as an evening star. I have heard from many astrologers that you can never see Mercury. I'm in some moon photography group on Facebook where somebody posted a picture of the moon next to Mercury and was like, what is this thing that the moon is next to? I think thinking it was a spaceship or something. And he wrote the date and it's like, oh, that's Mercury. And then 4 different people in the comment section on like an astrophotography group said, oh, that's not Mercury. Mercury's too small to be seen. What? I've been told that some folks who lived in valleys would have never seen Mercury in their entire life back in the day when we didn't travel so much and because it was difficult to do without engines and such. And it's just not true. In some cycles, Mercury can become quite visible as a morning star and then maybe not as an evening star, or the opposite can be true. And it really depends upon the sign where Mercury resides and the distance from the sun, but other things like celestial latitude, and very importantly, where on Earth you are looking from. But I don't believe, clouds allowing, if you get away from the trees, I don't think there's anywhere on Earth right now that wouldn't be able to see Mercury as an evening star. Wait, that's not at all true, actually, in like the Arctics, okay? But anyway, where you reside, if clouds allow, I am sure that you can see Mercury as an evening star at this time here on Wednesday, Miércoles, Mercury's Day, July 10th, 2024. So I really encourage you to do this, I guess, especially if you've never seen Mercury before. But anyway, and Mercury's in Leo right now, so hopefully you can receive a message about that radiant light that you are and receive some keys as to how to brighten your fire and focus your roar if you go out to see Mercury. And so for Mercury, just wait like half an hour after sunset, maybe 45 minutes. For Mercury, let's say 33 minutes after sunset. And you want to look pretty close to where the sun set. If you're in the northern hemisphere, look left of there. And maybe like 2 fists above the horizon if you stretch your arms out like that. If you are in the southern hemisphere, look to the right of where the sun had previously set to begin the night. And as the beams of the sun set, we start to have the ability to see the stars, including the moving stars, which is what planetus means, right? Venus is now becoming visible. I saw Venus for the first time on Saturday. Was actually somewhat surprised too. I wasn't, because I had taught literally 6 hours of Venus cycles, phases, and moon gates classes with live chart examples in our School of Astrology's Constellations community that morning. And, felt like, I guess, in that sense, when I saw Venus, like, oh, what a wonderful reward for putting the time in. Venus will every day for the next, 7 months or so, get further and further from the sun as she approaches her maximum elongation. And while that does not exactly equate to the greatest Venus visibility, there is no doubt that from this time in which I am sharing, every day Venus is going to get further from the sun and therefore become more and more visible as an evening star. In fact, it is today, July 10th, 2024, when Venus achieves a 10-degree separation from the sun, with the sun at like the 20th degree of Cancer and Venus at the 30th degree of Cancer. It's 10 degrees. And that's a decent astronomical rule for Venus visibility. She needs to be 10 degrees from the sun. Now, I saw Venus on Saturday. She was only 9 degrees away. I've seen Venus actually when she's much closer. I have been unable to see Venus in sun cycles when she is 10 and even 15 degrees from the sun. It again depends upon the sign, how they rise and set. In the tradition, they were called straight and crooked signs. That makes a huge difference. Other amazing astronomical truths like celestial latitude, meaning how far a planet is from the sun's path, and on we go. But the short story is Venus is likely visible, clouds allowing, to you today. And if you don't see her after sunset today, where you have to look very close to the sun, 10 degrees in the sky is about a fist width at arm's length, okay? You'll say, but your fist is smaller than mine. And I will say, but your arm is longer than mine. And so, roughly speaking, you extend your arm fully, and the fist from the width of the fist is 10 degrees of sky. So when the sun sets, put your fist out there, and you're not going to have it like straight up. If you're in the northern hemisphere, tilted a little bit to your left. If you're in the southern hemisphere, tilted a little bit to your right. If you are like 6 degrees south of the equator, it will be straight up in this particular cycle. Regardless, that's how close Venus is to sun now. And she, being the brightest being in our sky next to moon and sun, offers visibility when 10 degrees away. It's a good global rule. So go start looking. And then next week she'll be further away. You'll have much more of an opportunity. So anyway, if you go after sunset this evening, watch the sunset, wait a bit, right? So Lillian writes here, I use sky apps to identify what I'm seeing. That's great. And it's also kind of, if you don't then put the phone away, and I'm not saying you don't, Lillian, it's like those folks who are watching concerts through their iPhone because they need to live stream it so yeah, I always like to say this with the astronomy apps, it's kind of like set it and forget it, use them to help you understand what you're looking at and then put them away. And I looked at Venus on Saturday. I didn't think I'd be able to see her yet, so I was actually recording a video. It was chaos in the room at the time. Koa was having a dinosaur fight between Spinosaurus and Stegosaurus. It was a good fight, actually. And I was like, I'm kind of trying to record a video for folks. But I was like, look, there's a lot of Cancer energy right now. This is good Cancer energy. But I thought I was looking at Mercury, even though I had for days before known I was looking at Mercury much higher in the sky and much later after sunset. And it took a while to be like, wait a second, I'm looking at Venus. And so I will say this, for those of you who are learning astrology, the best astronomy app is actually the chart. Or just at least make sure, if you're using astronomy apps on your so-called smartphones, like Stellarium or Starwalk. There's so many now. They're great, right? Make sure that you're also, if you're an astrology student, casting a chart at the time. And that will help you from forming a lot of bad habits or protect you from believing Ophiuchus is the 13th sign. Anyway, sorry for the tangent there, but circles have many. So if you go to the sunset west now, very close to the sun, Venus, further from the sun, Mercury, and then you will also see moon as an evening star. I understand the moon is not a star, but again, we say fixed stars for those far, far away, and then planetus, which means moving stars, for the visible lights who move through them, including Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. That traditionally are the 7 planets, right? The 7 moving stars who we can watch visibly moving against the backdrop, okay? We see the sun every day, depending on clouds and such. I used to live in Seattle, so I do know how wrong that is. And it's overcast here today as well. And there were probably ice ages where we lost the sun for centuries, if not millennia. But again, tangent. So watch the sunset, you got the sun. Then you will see Venus. Then you will see Mercury. And first you will actually see the moon, because she's getting far enough from the sun now to be actually very easily discernible during the day. And when the sun sets, you will see the moon in the sunset west. This is always true when the moon is in waxing phase, meaning any time between new moon and full, that the moon is in the evening sky, that the moon is visible above the ground, clouds allowing, at sunset, right? So your evening planets at this time are Moon, Venus, and Mercury. Interestingly, in the astrological tradition, Moon and Venus are both of the night sect. And it is said that they are empowered, they are dignified, it is said, when they are visible, this is true for Moon and Venus, as evening stars. So the sun is set and we can see them in the sunset west. And that's happening now. It will change for the moon when she becomes full, but it's happening until then. And it's happening for Venus for like the next 8+ months after sunset, where Venus is visible as an evening star and will only become more and more visible. Mercury is all things both. And so Mercury belongs neither to the day sect, the day religion, the religion of the sun, or the night sect, that of the moon, but kind of plays for both teams, or one at a time. And when Mercury is in evening star phase, as Mercury is now, Mercury is said to play on the night team. So both Venus and Moon have this so-called accidental dignity now in astrology, because they are on the evening star side of the sun, and that will be especially true when they are on the opposite side of your local horizon from the sun, and that means after sunset, before Venus sets. So go and receive that power. And you know, Venus is reborn now, so what can be reborn in you? Venus is returning from like 2 months of invisibility as she traveled from Earth's point of view behind the sun, which means we had no view at all. Venus has shifted from her morning star side to the evening star side when she aligned behind the sun for Cazimi on June 4th in Gemini. But really this is a Leo cycle, or I like to call it a Leo-Gemini cycle, because Venus came between Earth and Sun in Leo on August 13th, 2023, and then went to the other side of the sun from Earth's point of view in Gemini on June 4th, 2024. So Leo-Gemini cycle, which for me speaks of Leo intentions, which require Gemini initiations. And a thing that Venus taught me some time ago, or is teaching me, because I don't know that I will fully integrate this teaching, but it's part of my practice. Don't bring the other to the light. Learn to see the light in them. So Leo reminds us that we don't only have the right to create here, it is our responsibility. And when we learn gratitude for every moment that brought us to this moment, good or bad, we take back the power of creative responsibility. And then the Gemini initiation in this cycle of global guidance and the awakening heart reminds us that there are many, 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 many truths. So we need to be careful not to get stuck on one side of a story. And part of this is to remember that every being is creating their own story. And even if that seems to contradict with what we believe to be true, there's something really beautiful and honoring that another has their own truth, another has their own light to share, even if we think it's not the right way to do it. As we accept that they're doing their right way, it's a whole other version of love, you know? So for me, Venus has much to teach in this regard. She's her last day in tropical Cancer. We're all family, y'all. And she heads to Leo tomorrow. And it's not uncommon, it's actually typical, that Venus will, after a couple months of disappearance, return to our visibility as an evening star and reflect sunlight from the same sign as which she had aligned between Earth and Sun the previous year, or typically about 11 months before. So that's happening now. Receive Venus's light while you're out there. Look up and to the south and you will see Mercury. Look further up and further to the south and you will see Moon. So that's currently the evening star planets. And then in the morning time, and I don't know that I would call it morning specifically, like Saturn is where I reside in the Bay Area of California, now rising at like 11:30 p.m. as far as the clock goes. So you might ask, well, why isn't that Saturn as evening star? Because Saturn's like in the sky at nighttime. And the answer is Saturn is not in the sky when the sun sets, and Saturn is in the sky when the sun rises. So until the sun opposes Saturn, which means Earth passing Saturn by, and since Saturn is in Pisces, that will mean the sun in Virgo. Best traffic light of all time. I love you, the gnome who lives in that light and always lets me go home efficiently. Amazing gnome. Okay, sorry. It literally is the best left turn signal ever in the history of ever, in my reality. Okay, so when the sun opposes Saturn in late Virgo, or kind of mid Virgo, then Saturn will shift from the morning star side to the evening star side, as he's in what my friend Adam Gainsbourg calls midnight star phase, because it will be at that time, as Earth is passing Saturn by, when Sun is opposite Saturn in our zodiac, that Saturn is on high or culminating in the middle of the night, when the Sun is at the IC, the Imam Celi, the bottom of the heavens down beneath. Saturn has already stationed retrograde, just a couple Saturdays back. Saturn stays back. And that means that Earth has begun its passing of Saturn. The exterior planets, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and the invisible Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and beyond. They they move backwards through Earth's zodiac for the same reason that cars appear to be moving backwards on the highway when you pass them, right? So our car, called Earth, is now passing the much slower car called Saturn. We're almost 30 times faster than that guy. All right. So Saturn is a morning star until then. In fact, in traditional sect consideration, Saturn is said to be of the day sect. Jupiter as well. And so it's of benefit from a consideration of traditional accidental dignity for both Jupiter and Saturn to be on the day side now, as morning stars now. And you can go see that happening. Jupiter, it feels to me like he just had heliacal rise, meaning that after I was watching Jupiter as an evening star, and the sun got closer and closer every day and took Jupiter into the beams, and Jupiter disappears for about 40 days and 40 nights. And then Jupiter was reborn in the sunrise east. I feel like it was yesterday, but life's been moving fast since we had a baby, you know. Jupiter's now rising at like, because we're so trained in clock time, I'll say like 3:30 a.m. I mean, like 2 hours before the sun. It's wild. So if you get out, and I would go at least an hour before sunrise, because then not only will you be able to see the moving stars, the Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars, but you'll also get to see the stars that they are traveling with. Later today on Storytelling Hour, which I'm really excited about today, Amala Hall, astro herbalist, alchemist, healer in many regards, will be joining me on Storytelling Hours today at 11 a.m. Pacific time, as it always is on Wednesdays and Mercury's days. So please join me there. We're going to speak generally about plant and planet correspondence. And I haven't told her this yet, but I intend to also speak with her and ask her about working with planets and stars. We had our new moon this month at the degree to which Sirius projects. And on Moon Day, on Monday next, Mars will conjoin Uranus at the degree of the zodiac where Algol, Medusa's eye, projects. That being said, if you get out before the light and early enough to see the fixed stars before they disappear, you see sun rises and becomes visible in the 12th, but the 12th is hidden things, because when the sun rises to illuminate the earth, he hides the heavens. So if you look at Mars now, and if you look at Mars on Monday, a cool thing there is like you can't see Uranus, right? But Mars is near Uranus, and you can ask Mars to introduce you. You will see that they are much closer to the Pleiades from your point of view than they are to Algol. And that will help you learn a thing or two about the heavens and about projections and about celestial longitude and zodiac degrees. And that's a place where, like the astronomy apps, for example, will help you from falling prey to potential bad habits that just putting stars on an astrology chart can form, which is just kind of an astronomical misconception. So you want to get out and be with the sky and do the astronomy, and you want to get in and be with the chart and do the correspondences too, you know? So anyway, I'm interested in asking Amala today and having a conversation about working with some plants that have traditional associations with both Sirius, with Algol, and with the Pleiades as well. So if you're interested in that conversation, join me. I should also say, and I will today on Storytelling Hours, I always do, that in the School of Astrology Constellations membership group, and I see many of you here, what's up? Amala is teaching a plant and planet class every month, and they are detailed and awesome. She's awesome. So I'm really excited, if you haven't met her yet, for you to meet her today at Storytelling Hour, whether you can make it live or you review the tape. Tonight, by the way, in Constellations, Phelan Shiva will be leading another Astro Tarot group. So for those of you in Constellations, that's at 4 p.m. today. If you want to learn more about constellations, GeminiBrett.com/constellations. You can still join for our maiden voyage price. It's crazy cheap, $16 a month. I teach a class every month. Phelan Shiva leads an Astro Tarot circle every month. Amala Hall teaches an Astro Herbalism class every month. Alyssa Luna leads us through a Astro Embodiment practice every month. We're just about to open a reading exchange circle. That's kind of tricky territory, so like working through on that. Danny, you're asking, do you join the group at Gemini Brett? You can go to GeminiBrett.com and you'll see in the tab at the top, community. is one of the links, or the quick link is geminibrett.com/constellations. Danny, would love to have you there. I know you kind of happened across the channel last week. We'll come full circle. Actually, we'll just be still at the beginning of our journey. Anyway, Constellations is amazing. And if you're interested in Tarot and Astro Tarot correspondence, this would be a great day to join, because Phelan will be leading a group and not leaving at 4 p.m. Pacific time this eve. Okay, so anyway, this morning I was too late, but I intend to get out very soon, wake up before the sun, as I have been many days in recent time, and seeing Saturn and Mars and Jupiter, and then sunrise. Mars is said traditionally to be of the night sect. Mars traditionally is said to be in exile in Taurus, as much as Jupiter is in Gemini, but Jupiter now is said, at least according to the tradition, to be bona fide, or I shouldn't say that, to be dignified because of morning star status, while the opposite is true for Mars. How much are these rules real? Well, I say you go out and ask the source. And that will be a big part, actually, of my conversation with Amala Hall today on Storytelling Hour. So please join me just here in a couple hours, in 10 minutes at 11 a.m. Pacific time, for a conversation with astroherbalist and alchemist Amala Hall about plant and planet correspondence. Please feel free to bring your questions. We look forward to seeing you there. Thanks for spending some time in the car with me and in the garage. See you in the space, friends.